The movie begins in 1991 where a young Beatrice is feeding a mouse that she had petted. Suddenly she hears loud thumps from above. Then a woman screams and dust falls on her. Soon after that, blood starts dripping on her, due to which she gets very scared, and then a lot of blood starts coming down from the wall. Now the movie takes us 30 years ahead in time where Beatrice has grown up. She calls her mother who is driving her daughter back home, and then she too leaves for the home where she sees a mysterious person, nicknamed the Bagman. When she comes home, we see that this is the same house that was shown at the beginning of the movie. Beatrice's mother Alesk asks her to give food to her dad Roloff. When she goes there, she sees that an officer named Hans is talking to Roloff, and then he leaves there. Roloff tells her that they are looking for a Bagman who has dug some deep holes in the bog. Beatrice tells him that she saw the man on the way. Next, we see Bagman digging a pit in the night, and some voice was telling him to do so. Suddenly that whispering stops, and when he looks back, he sees a shadow, and then in the morning, his dead body is found in the same pit. We then see a group of archaeologists, which is led by a man named Jonas. A member of his team named Sonia tells him that locals found a dead body of a woman 4 days ago and the body is well preserved. Here she also introduces him to a guy named Leonard, and Jonas asks him about a guy named Radu. Sonia then tells him that police found a man dead who was digging in his own pit this morning. They say he died of hypothermia and they are not allowed to check the pit yet. She then takes him to the site where Jonas sees the woman's body and gets greatly amused at this discovery. Suddenly Beatrice wakes up with a sound, and when she goes to her mother's room, she sees that she is shivering in a very strange way. She wakes her up and her mother says that she is fine. Just then Hannah comes there and tells Beatrice that she had a bad dream. Now Beatrice is taking her back to her room when she sees someone standing outside the house. She goes downstairs to check and tells her mother that she thinks she has just seen someone. Suddenly Roloff comes there and asks them if any of them had just gone out. They think it could be Bagman, but Roloff tells them that it is not possible as the man had died earlier that day. The next day in the morning, Roloff was fighting with Jonas, as he believed that somebody from his archaeological team had trespassed on his premises. Jonas apologizes to him and says that he will tell his men not to go to that side. We then see Beatrice and her mother in a clinic where the doctor says that it could be a case of unprocessed trauma that is now showing physical symptoms in her, and therapy could be a solution for this. Here Roloff installs a motion sensor camera outside the house and tells Hannah that if there is any movement during the night, they will have a picture. Now that night we see Jonas and Beatrice having a drink in a bar. Beatrice tells him that her mother has a bad habit of picking up sugar packets. Suddenly Jonas's health deteriorates and he comes out to vomit. Then both of them start walking towards the house when Beatrice tells him about the history of her family, and how the folks in the town think that her whole lineage is cursed. Her husband Neil had died, leaving her with a daughter named Hannah. Her grandmother was killed by somebody when she was very young, and after that incident, her father had become an alcoholic, lost his job, and her mom became emotionally unavailable. Now when Beatrice is going to sleep at the night, she sees a man in the house, due to which she gets very scared. He apologizes to her and says that he took some of her milk, and Beatrice sees that he has a knife with him. She leaves there in fear and tells her mother about him, but the man follows her there. Both of them start going upstairs in fear, and the man apologizes to them and says that they are making him do it. Suddenly he grabs Ales's leg, causing her to fall. He then tries to kill her, but Beatrice fights back and gets the knife out of his hand. But then he starts screaming loudly, and then Hannah comes there and Beatrice takes her to her room. Ales tells the man to leave, but he tries to kill her again, but Roloff arrives at the right time and hit him on the head, making him unconscious. The police then arrive at the house and take him to the hospital. Now the next day Jonas comes to their house and apologizes, saying that he had known Radu for a long time. He was a very nice person. He was a member of his team and he don't know why he did this. Beatrice asks him if that man is 40 or 45 years old, and in 1991 he would have been 10 or 15 years old. To which Jonas says yes and tells that he lived in Romania. Beatrice takes him to her room and starts crying. Jonas tries to calm her down. Here Roloff tells Ales that it's all happening again. She is back and they must leave as soon as possible. Then she goes to the kitchen to get tea but suddenly faints. We then see her in the hospital where her brain is being scanned. And when Beatrice comes out of the hospital with her, she sees Leonard there. She goes back inside the hospital after him and sees that Jonas is there too and that they had come to see Radu. The Radu's family is also there and his son starts staring at her. She finds this strange, so she starts leaving from there, and we see Radu's son is following her. He also enters the lift with her and says no more. Then he extends his hand towards her, and as soon as Beatrice holds his hand, the lift stops. The boy starts chanting something, and when he opens his eyes, he gets scared seeing someone behind Patrick. Suddenly, Patrick sees in the mirror that a very scary spirit is standing behind her, which scares her very much. Then she comes back outside to her mother and checks the meaning of New Amora and finds that it means she never died. Then she sees Jonas and she walks over to him. She asks him did he know why Radu did this, on which he tells her that he has not woken up yet. But at camp, they were saying that he was digging on his own away from the site. Now the next day they meet again at the bar where Patrick shows him an old man named Hun whose son Misha had died a couple of days back. He had also been digging like the others. Jonas now reveals that they have found 100-year-old women's bodies at their site. Patrick then introduces him to Tun, who says that Misha knew exactly where to dig. He talks about a woman named Helen and about folklore that was somehow linked to the death of his boy. His father was also convinced of the whispering and was Misha's spiritual guide. When they found Misha's body, he was petrified. Saying this, he gets emotional and tells Patrick to call him if she has any questions. Later, Jonas asks Patrick about Helen, to which Patrick tells that she is sort of the villain in this whole legend of fake. Like there is something evil out there in the bog, whispering horrible things to anyone who listens. She finds it just a story, but some people take it very seriously. Her dad said he heard it once and she thinks she heard it too in the hospital. But Jonas takes it lightly. She then asks him about the woman, to which he says no, saying that he will not tell her if it makes her all paranoid and weird. Hearing this, Patrick gets angry and an argument starts between them. She asks him to stop the car and gets down from it and starts leaving. Jonas goes after her to stop her, but after going a little further she starts laughing and then kisses him, after which they start getting intimate there. Jonas later returns to the camp where Sonia shows him a cut on the woman's throat. He also gets to know that Radio had dug in specific areas and found the dead bodies of 4 more women, which were preserved in the same fashion as the first one they had found. The surprising fact is that every woman had her throat slit vertically. After this we see the camera clicking pictures that Roloff had installed outside his house. Here Patrick is drinking water in the kitchen when she sees some strange shadow outside the house. When she cleans the mirror to see it clearly, she sees her mother's reflection in it, which frightens both of them. The next day Roloff shows Hans the picture clicked last night, but he doesn't see anything in it. He tells him that he is just worried about the attack, to which Roloff says that it was not his fault. He was only listening. Hans asks him what's going on, to which he says that he wants something from him. Next, we see Patrick at the school where Hannah's school play is about to begin. Sonia, on the other hand, tells Jonas about the legend of Fake. Many centuries ago, there was an evil lord named Walter and his bitter wife Helen, who treated their people poorly and lived in tremendous wealth whilst others were left to struggle. Together they commanded a household with dozens of servants. One of them was a young girl called Fake. Here Hannah's play begins and her grandpa was not there. Sonia continues by telling that it wasn't long before Walter started developing lustful feelings for the girl. Eventually, Fake got pregnant. When Helen found out, she became very furious and says that it was not him. He was under a spell by Fake and so she was named a witch. Awaiting her fate in the dungeon, she prayed to God for help. But it was a different god who listened, a heathen god named Moloch, the god of child sacrifice. Moloch whispered to her that he will help her to escape this fate. But beware, this vengeance will become a cage of its own and he will claim her offspring, even those yet unborn. A deal was then made and sealed with the mark of Moloch burned into the girl's forehead. Fake stood at the stake where Helen insisted she confesses her guilt and repents. But Fake answered no. She freed her hand and before anyone could act, she cut her own throat. As Fake's last breath left her body, Helen's wretched soul was evicted from hers. From that moment on, Helen's living and breathing flesh belongs to Fake. As the Lord's wife, she exercised her influence over his rulings, and happiness and prosperity returned. To this day, Fake is celebrated as a true heroine and a beacon of light. People believe Helen's spirit has been roaming the bog ever since, consumed with rage and vengeance on her mind, whispering her evil lies into the ears of passers-by. Meanwhile, Patrick finds a drawing of Hannah there, in which she had made the same spirit that she had seen in the elevator. After the play, she meets Hannah and asks her about the drawing, to which she said that she made it up. Now on the way home, Patrick is thinking about it when she sees Roloff putting some traps around the house to prevent bad things from happening. Upon reaching home, Patrick gets a call from Jonas asking her to meet him at Fake's party. Next, we see Patrick with Tun, who tells her that fish talks to each other through micro vibrations and that's kind of how it worked with Misha. Some people are more sensitive to those vibrations than others. Then he takes her to a room and asks her to sit there. Then he makes her close her eyes and starts tapping on a book. Now slowly the voice of Tap starts getting louder and slower, and she reaches her childhood where she remembers the same day when her grandmother was murdered. And she saw that her grandmother's throat was also cut vertically. Suddenly she comes to her senses and sees Tun is crying because all the fish he raised were dead. After this she goes to the camp to meet Jonas, but he is not there. Sonia comes to her and says that she is not allowed here. Patrick asks her, are all women from different eras? And when she says yes, she tells that they are all related. On the other hand, we see Leonard walking in the bog, who could hear the whispers, and was walking towards Patrick's house. But Roloff knocks him unconscious with a taser gun and starts tying his hands. Then he hears the sound of tinkling and whispering is heard. Here Patrick is packing, and when Alessia comes there, Patrick tells her that they are leaving. She says that the dead bodies of many women have been found here with their throats cut, and they were all sacrificed. Somebody wants to hurt their family, so they can't stay here. Here Roloff hears tinkling from all sides, and suddenly we see someone passing behind him. Then some women from all around him start moving toward him, and he sees that a woman is Alessia among them. Then he starts hearing whispering, after which he goes into a trance state. On the other hand, Jonas is at the party and calls Patrick but is unable to contact her. Just then Sonia comes there and calls him. She tells him that Patrick had come to the camp and she was very scared. Jonas tells her that Patrick's husband had died and that her grandma had also been murdered. Sonia is shocked to hear this and asks him if he thinks that sacrifices are still happening. Patrick was rambling something about her family being in danger. She thinks they are still sacrificing people to Moloch. Only then do they see a tableau there, in which they are carrying an effigy of a girl for sacrifice. Seeing this, Jonas immediately leaves there. On the other hand, we see the spirits of all those women standing outside the house and Roloff moving towards the house. Here in the house, Hannah calls Patrick and they see Roloff standing at the door of the house and trying to open the door. Then he tries to open the door by breaking the glass, but Patrick gets out the key. After which he retreats. Patrick locks Hannah in a room and Alessia locks the other doors of the house. But Roloff breaks open the door and attacks Alessia. He tries to kill her by strangling her, but Patrick knocks him unconscious by hitting him on the head. Then she sees that her mother has disappeared from there and Roloff also regains consciousness. He goes upstairs where he sees Patrick lying unconscious in front of him, and suddenly Alessia puts a noose around his neck and hangs him, and we see that she was possessed. Here Jonas is coming towards their house, but his leg gets caught in a trap. Then we see some people coming into the house, one of whom was walking lame and was wearing Moloch's mask. Patrick was tied to the bed, and she was lying unconscious. When she regains consciousness, she sees that Alessia and all those people are standing in front of her and chanting something. Alessia tells her that it will not take much time, and there is a blade lying in front of her. She picks up the blade and slits her throat. Seeing that, Patrick gets very scared and starts crying. Just then the same terrible spirit comes there which she saw in the lift, and she starts moving towards her and Patrick starts trembling in a strange way. Jonas reaches the house, unfastens the ropes to which Patrick is tied, and makes her reunite with Hannah. A few days later, Jonas comes back to the town and meets Patrick. He offers her and Hannah to move in with him, but Patrick politely declines the offer. While leaving, Patrick picks up the sachet of sugar from the cafe, just like her mother Alessia used to, which is evidence of the fact that fate now resided in her. Next, we see Patrick and Hannah at home when she looks outside the window. There we see Patrick's spirit with many other spirits, and inside with Hannah is actually Faika. Patrick's soul is very sad seeing this, and the movie ends here. Please like and subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon never to miss new video.